Are you tired of feeling overlooked and underestimated? Hi, I'm Tammy North, the Introverted Executives Coach. If you're an introverted executive or you're ready to rise to senior leadership, but you're struggling to be seen as a high potential, this podcast is for you. There you are, just as determined and focused as you always are. Behind the scenes, you're working your fingers to the bone. You're making sure all the right things happen. You're making sure the right people are pulled in. The right content is briefed to leadership. The right meetings are scheduled. You have an agenda that drives progress. You read all the strategic documentation. You're very productive, and you are always delivering value. You keep up with innovation happening in your field, and you work constantly and consistently to improve yourself. Still, at the moment, you have a couple of layers of leadership between you and the executive, and you have a strong feeling that you're one of the main reasons your project, your division, and maybe even your department are continuing to shine. All this sounds great, so what's the problem? The thing is, you're not sure if the CEO even knows your name. You ask your direct supervisor to give you bigger projects, greater responsibility, but for some reason, he keeps you where you are. I mean, he has all the good reasons when you ask. He's glad to list them for you. You're not quite ready. Maybe in a year. Well, I really need you on this project because it's one of the most important efforts we have right now. You know all of our stakeholders. We need you to finish that cost analysis. You've heard it all. He's not really a bad supervisor, but you have been working there for several years and pretty much you've been in the same role. And even though you've grown a lot in both knowledge and experience, he still sees you as that quiet young woman who he first hired, 10 years ago. This is the reality, which is sometimes people who've mentored or trained you still see you as the younger version of yourself, and they won't admit to themselves that you've grown or the degree to which that's true. Heck, you might even be outpacing your supervisor, and that is probably a very hard pill to swallow for them. I had an experience like this at one organization I was at, and the main person I needed to believe in me, the main person who was in charge of all the hiring panels for the bigger roles, was also the main person who mentored me and taught me more than any single person in my entire career to that point. The thing is, he'd been my boss in 2 different stints with that organization, one when I was pretty young, and then when I had a different opportunity to work at that organization in a more senior role, he'd also become more senior, and I worked directly for him again. I was bumping up against a ceiling and I felt that I was ready for increased roles and responsibility, and I know he actually did believe in me and wanted me to keep providing value to his team. But yet I also strongly believe that even though we'd been working together over a 12-year period and he knew how innately driven I was to deliver for our customer, I believe he still saw me as that younger version of myself that he had met 12 years prior. It's kind of like the kid next door, the one that went off to college, got a law degree, he worked for a high-priced law firm, but then he came back to the small town, and in some ways, all the older people in town still think that he's still that youngster that they knew down the street. It's a really challenging place to be. So my story is only one example of being underestimated, but there are so many ways and different reasons that you might feel underestimated in your own world. I know you, and much like me, you are not strongly driven by awards and formal accolades. So in that regard, the main symptom you'll notice if you are being underestimated is just what I discussed in my personal example. You will just feel like you're outgrowing your role, that you're outgrowing the lanes that you've been given to operate within, and you're going to start feeling stifled or stuck. You're going to start thinking that you can make a bigger difference, and if you start bumping against others and being told to stay in your lane, it might get frustrating. You'll especially know that you might be underestimated if you're asking for bigger roles, bigger projects, more responsibility, and in spite of nothing but positive feedback, you start to feel like nobody sees your potential. It might seem like no one, not even your direct supervisor, is interested in letting you push past your boundaries and grow to the next level. There's some part of you that wonders, are they being selfish? Is there any chance that they don't want you to grow? Is there any chance that they don't want you to get promoted? I mean, at that point, you would essentially become their equal. Or maybe they just love the work you're doing directly for them and your efforts are making them look better. And this is understandable, but it's also short-sighted thinking on their part. It's not good for the customer and it's bad for the organization because it will drive away very motivated talent. If they're going to keep other talented individuals pigeonholed in one place, that'll signal that it's not a place for growth. Still, is there any chance when you are in this moment that you can use a situation like this to your advantage? I think there is. So while you're there feeling overlooked and underestimated, what if you could use this moment to prepare yourself and to build other opportunities? Is there any chance that being underestimated can be a good thing? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today. How to twist the scenario into a moment that is good for you and good for the customer and mission that you care so much about. So let's explore this idea. There are so many reasons a person might feel underestimated at work. Things like age, gender, race, your level of education, your education source. If somebody went to Harvard or somebody got an online degree, sometimes the people with the online degree would be underestimated. The background you grew up in, growing up in a small town, growing up in a low-income family, how long you've been at the company, maybe you just don't understand, the way you dress, if you have blue hair, maybe people will underestimate you, you name it. Generally, there are all types of unconscious bias, and we are all affected in some way. But from this point forward, I want you to look at these moments as an opportunity. When somebody underestimates you, think, this is awesome. I got this. When somebody has lower expectations of you than you have of yourself, you have an opportunity to bring an element of surprise and deliver value that will knock their socks off. The key is not to be deterred when you feel underestimated. In those moments, sometimes it might be frustrating, but do not stop pushing. Do not stop trying until you find a way around your primary roadblock. Choose instead to surprise everybody with value beyond measure and exceed all expectations. The first thing and the most important thing is to manage your mindset and do your thought work. First and foremost, the one thing that you can always control is your own thoughts and how you are choosing to interact in any given situation. And when you're thinking, they don't think I'm capable, or they won't let me grow, or anything that drives the feeling that you're being underestimated, then you need to remember that what you think drives how you feel, and how you feel directly causes you to take or not take certain actions. And if you spend too much time dwelling on the thought that you are being underestimated, or any other thought that makes you feel underestimated, you're going to feel undervalued, and you may take actions like talking less, participating less, not volunteering for hard projects, letting other people take the lead. And too many actions fueled by the feeling underestimated will literally make it so that you are undervalued and that you are undervaluing yourself. And essentially that you're underestimating yourself because you're taking all the actions that actually make that real. Rather, I want you to have thoughts like, I am making a difference. I am already leading hard projects. I am a leader. I am seen as a leader. When you have those thoughts, you're going to feel seen, empowered, capable, and supported. And when you feel like that, you will take different actions fueled from the more powerful thoughts. So I get it. No matter how successful you get, you're always going to have some good days and some bad days. You're going to have days when you feel low and underappreciated and underestimated. There could even be really long periods of time where it feels like you're working away and making things happen, but still not making as much progress in your overall career goals as you had hoped. And that's okay. Things don't always happen overnight. But when you are in one of these low periods, where you feel things are stuck and you are underappreciated, it's how you conduct yourself in these moments that will set you apart from everyone else. Your ability to control your thoughts in your mind and to continue to choose thoughts that fuel you, that drive the motivated feelings, and then take the actions that continue to always add value will set you up for that next big career leap when the time comes, and it will come. So here's an activity I want you to work on today. If you get nothing else out of this podcast, I want you to take this nugget away. Take 5 or 10 minutes and write down all the thoughts that come to mind in your journal or on a sheet of paper. Specifically focus on the times that you felt underestimated or underappreciated. Just write until you fill up the entire sheet of paper. And when you're done, look over the thoughts and phrases. And is there one phrase that seems to be more impactful than others? One that really seems to kind of get to the root of how you feel in these moments? If so, circle it. This is a good topic to take to your executive coach if you have one. But you can also choose to take the steps to move that thought toward one that fuels you. You might not just be able to flip it. Like if you're thinking, nobody cares what I think. Maybe you could say, no, everybody cares what I think. But that's not probably going to be something you believe at that moment. But you can shift it to one of the other thoughts that we talked about, such as I am a good leader. I am already leading hard projects. something like that, where I am on a good path. I'm figuring it out. I'm learning everything I need. Even something like I'm a butterfly growing my wings. You're just in this moment and you're growing and things seem kind of dark right now, but maybe it's just your cocoon. And in a little while, you're going to break free and your full, beautiful wings are going to show. So just shift your thoughts. You aren't going to be here forever. You will find your way up or out, and you will reach your biggest career dream as long as you don't give up. Okay, the second thing you can do if you've been underestimated is to begin to express your thoughts and ideas more, especially using an energetic, confident tone. Volunteer to brief, teach lunch and learns at your company. Be the one to present new ideas for your team to your boss. Get used to communicating verbally more often. Use a confident, calm tone. And don't speak too fast or too slow, but be very deliberate in your words. Many people talk too much, so you'll have an advantage here because you're an introvert. Just say what needs to be said. Be willing to share your opinions, ideas, and any additional value that you have for other people's ideas. The more you practice, the easier it will get. And you can even practice at home. Pretend you're answering questions or briefing at work. You can record yourself with your voice recorder on your phone or even a camera and notice what you change, and then just make slight little improvements. Okay, the third thing you can do if you're feeling underestimated. One thing I do when I'm feeling underestimated is when I go to meetings with more senior people than I am at my organization, I usually take a lot of time to plan what I might say. If I'm briefing, I usually write out my exact words. I don't read my exact words usually, but the fact that I wrote out my thoughts ahead of time ensures that I'm going to remember all the points I wanted to make and that any conversation I wanted to start will be clearly organized. And this will do two things for you. One, you'll come across as a person who's organized and has clear thoughts, who always adds value and is well prepared. And two, your preparation will eventually show that you're a cut above everybody else. As many people prepare just as soon as they walk into the meeting, or maybe not even at all, and kind of wing it, or they might scribble a couple notes just pop into their mind. If they had something due and it pops up on the screen, they'll do a little tap dance about why that isn't ready yet, and then everybody at the meeting will know they're making up their response right in that moment. You can choose to actively be the opposite of this person, and that alone will cause you to rise. The fourth thing you can do if you're being underestimated at work is meet with your supervisor or even their supervisor and ask for feedback. This isn't always comfortable, but the more you're willing to do it, the more you'll grow. Although don't do it too often. You can talk about your future within the organization and any opportunities that they might see and what it would take for you to grow into some other opportunities. If you don't ask for feedback and you just quietly suffer or stew, it could be that they didn't even know you were interested in a bigger opportunity. They might not even know that you wanted something else. They might think you're just happy plugging away right there on that team. Some good times to do this could be during a midterm review or during your annual performance period. But if it's going to be a long time until one of these events and you feel like talking, you can schedule time in between. I had one client who felt the need to talk to her boss every month. At some point I told her, just be patient. You've already gotten what you wanted at this point. So now why don't you just work really hard for a while and then in a few months re-engage. So don't do it too often. Otherwise, you're going to start to seem like you're one of the people who only thinks about getting promoted. But in order to truly get promoted, you need to deliver value. When you go into this discussion, ensure that you have a positive demeanor and let them know that you are interested in more responsibility, a bigger role, or a new opportunity within the company. Ask them for feedback about what you could improve or learn to be seen as a strong candidate for bigger roles. And even though it might be uncomfortable, if you want to grow, it is your responsibility to ask so that you know what they would say and so that they know what you want. If they say, oh no, everything's great, and they don't give you any constructive feedback and you remain stuck in spite of this could be a sign. There are other ways to grow, and we'll talk about that in other podcasts. Okay, and the fifth thing to do if you're feeling underestimated at work is to actually volunteer for bigger projects. When they say, we need somebody to take on this, is there any volunteers? Raise your hand. Say yes. Even if it's within your current scope, so it's not really growth, by choosing to lead another harder portion of your team's work, you will create momentum and accomplishment, which will cause anybody who's underestimating you to wake up and take notice over time. When you say yes to the right projects, you'll drive big wins and help heighten the perception of your abilities up the chain of command and to senior leadership. Okay, so now to the part that you've been waiting to hear. Is it possible to use the fact that other people are underestimating you to your advantage? If so, then how? So I already say yes, it is. For starters, if your leader or another colleague is underestimating you, you can leverage this perception. Trust me, The time before everybody starts paying a ton of attention to you is a golden time, especially when you know enough and you have a strategic enough vision and view that you are ready to grow exponentially. It's in this beautiful period of time that you can figure out who you really are, what your true passion and talent is within your own industry, and then go all in on the value you already know you can deliver, and simultaneously get to work building coalitions of like-minded individuals, both internally and externally to your organization. Are there areas you need to learn better before somebody really does give you that jump in responsibility you're looking for? Well, get to work on that right now. You could take classes, you can build partnerships. All of these are useful in this regard. Then don't just learn. Don't go to these classes and learn. That happens. A lot of people do that. I call that consuming. But then don't just consume, but actually implement what you've learned with laser focused intention. If you're running a team, ensure you execute your deliverables flawlessly. Deliver ahead of schedule. And if you don't have a mentor, get one right now, one that's where you want to be. And if you do have a mentor, but maybe you've been kind of stagnant with that person, it may be time to learn from somebody new. Once leadership wakes up to your talent and your potential, you will have much less time, trust me. So make sure you set yourself up for success when it happens, and it will happen. Other baseline mastery you should get into control before you become more senior, and this little time right here where you're being underestimated is perfect for this. First, make sure you really have a strong process for managing your email, time management, calendar management, and task management. All 4 of these are heavily related, but you need a plan for each of them. These are basically the 4 horsemen of flawless execution, reliability, and high productivity, especially as you grow in responsibility. As you step up behind the scenes in all of these areas, there will come a point where it is absolutely impossible to ignore who you are and the value you deliver. While others are busy underestimating you, they're probably also not watching your every move. This will give you time to research deeply, learn new things, make new connections. Essentially, you can create a springboard of success while you're waiting to launch. If you continue to be underestimated at one organization, you can use your newfound springboard to launch to a new organization that sees your value and will be thrilled to let you thrive. Essentially, you need to surprise people when they aren't seeing all that you're capable of. You can take many of the actions in this episode or quietly build your springboard to launch up the chain or out of the organization. But either way, your desire and ability to continuously grow will be the key to your future success. And eventually those who are underestimating you will have to reassess who you are and your potential, or you can find a new way and maybe a new place to succeed. Eventually, you will no longer be underestimated. So while you are, use this time to cultivate incredible growth and be prepared to surprise everyone, maybe even yourself, with the positive impact you are able to make in the world. You can connect with me at Introverted Executive on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're ready for executive coaching to help you achieve your biggest career goals, subscribe to my weekly Rise and Shine newsletter. There, you'll find out when my program opens for new clients, and you'll also receive weekly tips and activities to continue to make a bigger impact in your own powerful way. You'll find all the information and links down in the show notes. See you next week.